Howdy folks, got a short free guitar lesson for you today as a little promotional tool for my Skype lessons here. What I'm going to do is sort of go through a couple scales and show you how to play some basic licks out of those scales, sort of a beginning example of how to take major and blues scales and start applying them directly to licks that you can play that you can put back into songs. I've done a video like this before, but this is just sort of another step, another couple scales to work with. And sort of give you an idea of what my lessons are like and where they can go. Got number 399 here, a trusty old Henderson OM18. Play this one around the house a lot. I got it set up with light strings and kind of a low setup, so it's a great guitar to sit around and just have fun with. But let's get right into what we're going to work on today. So we're going to use a couple scales. Going to kind of talk about how when you improvise in a major key, you mix the major scales and blues scales together really closely. And licks can lean one way or another, but you can sort of, there's always an element of both of those scales in there in a lot of your major bluegrass licks. So we're going to do stuff that's just around sort of open position, a G chord position. So we're going to use the pattern of the major scale that actually starts on the 6th. I'll show you what I mean by that. So the sound you're used to hearing is start from here, but we're just accessing all the possible information in this area of the neck. So using the number system, normally we start on the 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. When we start this scale, we're just starting on the 6 and going 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, and so on. So adding those couple notes on the bottom just gives you an entire pattern that sits around a G chord. So that's the major scale. Let me run through that one more time. Alright, now we'll grab our blues scale here. We're going to use a pattern of the blues scale that starts on the flat 7. And in my lessons I talk a lot more about what makes the blues scales blues and sort of the technical knowledge behind that, but we'll just jump right into the scale for right now. Alright, so there we're going flat 7, 1, flat 3, 4, flat 5, 5, flat 7, 1, and then we keep taking that pattern up the neck. So one more time. Alright, so that's just a basic blues scale around a G chord position. So in my lessons generally I'll teach you how to take those kind of scales all the way up and down the neck. There's a very logical way that you lay them out and organize them, and that's sort of a lot of the meat of the lessons, especially if you're interested in improvising more, learn the neck more, being able to write your own melodies and arrangements, things like that. But let's get right into using these things, because a lot of times you'll see people just sort of stopping with the memory work. It's very common, and it's something that I try to focus on. Is when you start applying this stuff directly, it really helps your playing a whole lot. Some of it's just a matter of identifying what you already know, and then it allows you to expand into new areas. So when you use the blues scales, I say to people, it's kind of a funny phrase, but there's no such key as G blues. So it's a color that you place over top of the major scales, or the major key, sorry. So when you're playing in a major key and you play that blues scale, it just gives more grit and tension and release and things like that that give your playing a different color. It's also true that you rarely use the blues scales in just a sterilized form by themselves. So there are some licks that are really just pure blues. But you don't hear that very often. Most of the time you hear something like, which has the blues notes there for the tension and the grit, but it's also mixed side by side with the major scale. So here's a couple examples. So there's a lick that I like to do, sounds something like this. Nice little flat picking lick there. And kind of show you how this works. So we come in, well, right there we've already played a major scale note. That's the 6. So we're already off of the blues trail there. There's that flat 7 that colors it. So that's kind of how this progresses. So we've also got a 2, which is not in the blues scale, it's from the major scale. And right there we slide from a flat 3 to the natural 3. So that's sort of a good example of how that lick has a very blues sound. It's got that flat 7, flat 3 and everything in there, but it's not purely one scale or the other. So let me play that slow one more time. Nice little tension and release in that lick. So that is an example of something that, even though it mixes both scales, it really leans heavily toward the blues side. So let's do something now that's got more of a major sound, but that has some blues tension in there. Something like this. One more time on that. You can sort of vary how many pull-offs or just pick notes you do in there, but the general idea is the same. So we're coming in the major scale. So the blues note is right there. It's the flat 3. And it's just a really quick thing. We pull off from the flat 3 to the 2. And that's kind of, you hear Tony Rice do that all the time. Lots of flat pickers use that to get down sort of to the bottom. And it you barely even notice it as a real heavy blues influenced sound, but it's just a little twist, a little bit of color in this lick. So let me play it one more time. Almost got a triplet sound to it. But you're getting that triplet through a pull-off, not through overworking your right hand. So let me play this slow one more time. Alright, so there's just a couple simple flat picking licks that you can work into a lot of fiddle tunes and bluegrass tunes. A little illustration of how to mix these scales together. And again, there's a lot more to do with this, taking it all the way up the neck. These concepts hold true. Once you get away from open strings, things start to feel a little bit different, but you're still thinking in formulas. You can still analyze all this stuff and put it together in really tasteful ways. And that's something that I try to do a lot in my Skype lessons. Of course, there's a lot of other areas we can do too. We can learn tunes, work on contest arrangements. If you want to talk about stuff like rhythm, right hand speed, that's all stuff that I talk about a whole lot. And I take a wide range from beginner to people that are more advanced. So just let me know if you're interested. I'll leave contact information with the post and everything like that. Hope you all enjoy these licks, and hope to hear from you soon.